Okay, so looking at domain and range of continuous graphs. We've looked at domain and range of the discrete graphs. Now we're going to look at domain and range of continuous graphs. To help us do that, we're going to follow a few simple rules. For domain, you want to scan your pencil or pen left to right along the x-axis. Remember last week we learned that domain is for our x values. Our range is the y values. So we're going to scan our pencil top to bottom along the y-axis. Okay? Our x-axis runs left to right. Our y-axis runs top to bottom. So looking at our examples for the first one, if we want to do domain, we're going to look at our x-axis, which runs left to right. So if we're scanning our pen left to right, if you look, there's an arrow, and we go continue to the right, there's another arrow. When it goes left to right and there's arrows, that means that we're looking at all real numbers. Or it can be written like that. That's the math notation for all real numbers. The range, we'll be looking at the y-axis. So we're going to scan our pen top to bottom. So when we start at the top, if you look, those arrows are going up. So we're going to have all those numbers up there, but then we stop. Our pen does not go past that y value. That y value is where y equals -2. If you look, that's an enclosed dot, so we're going to have y is greater than or equal to -2. So we're using all the y's that are bigger than -2. If we look at number 2, that one's a circle, so for domain, we're going to scan our graph left to right with our pen. If we look left, it started here. That is 1, 2, x equals -3. If we keep going, it goes to right here. X equals 3. So our domain is all of the numbers greater than or equal to -3, less than or equal to -3. Our range, we want to scan top to bottom. If we start, if you look at, we're going to use all the numbers less than. And if you want to go ahead, you're going to put y and your inequality symbols like that. It's including it, so you want to put the including part, the line underneath it. Up here is y is equal to 3. If you scan your pen to the bottom, the lowest y is equal to -3. I know it's kind of confusing, so take your time. Let's look at number 3. And this was my pink range. Looking at number 3, the x-axis is our domain. Scanning our pencil left, oh, there's an arrow. So we're looking at all the x's to the left, and then if we look arrow, all the x's to our right. When it's all the x's, we're looking at all real numbers. When it's a y, the range, if you scan, there's an arrow going up to the arrow going down. Our range is all the set of y's. So our range is also all real numbers. If we look at number 4, our domain is all the x values. We're going to scan our pencil left to right, scanning left to right. This arrow continues to negative x infinity, the arrow means it's going to keep going. So our domain is once again all real numbers. The range is the y values. Going top to bottom, if you look, your graph does not go above this point. That is y equals 4. So all my y's have to be less than or equal to 4. So y has to be less than or equal to 4. Let's turn to the back and let's look at number 7 and number 8. My domain, you need to look at left to right because my axis runs left to right. The arrow using all the negative x's, the arrow means we're using all the right x's, the positive values. My domain is all real numbers. The range, remember, is all your y values. We don't use any y values above y equals y equals 2. When we scan it to the bottom, we don't use any y values below -3. So if we put our smaller number is -3, so y has to be greater than or equal to -3 and less than or equal to 2. Let's look at number 8. My domain is my x values. Scanning left to right. Well, we're not using any of these values over here. If you look, my x's doesn't start until x is equal to -1. But scanning left to right, they keep going this way. So my x's are greater than or equal to -1. Our range is all the y values. So scanning top to bottom, those arrows imply that it keeps going top to bottom, so it is all real numbers. Let's look at number 9, because this one is kind of special. It's just a straight line. All the x's scanning left to right. Well, if we look, there's only one spot that the x is already being used. It's on this line. It's where x equals 2. So that's what we're going to write for our domain. Every spot on this graph, x is equal to 2. If we look at our range, top to bottom, those arrows mean that it keeps going. We'll use all the y's up here and all the y's down here. So y is all real numbers, or you could write it with the symbol. If we look at number 10, domain is all of our x's. If we look, this scanning left to right, the arrows mean that it keeps going this way and it keeps going that way. So my domain is all real numbers. The range, top to bottom, well, there's only one y value that's being used. The only y value is y equals -4.